And joining us in the studio to appraise the idea of the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty is Victoria Ebere Eze. She is the Chief Executive Officer of Participatory Development Alternatives. Thanks for joining us on PTV Primetime News tonight.
You're welcome.
All right, as the world commemorates the World Poverty Eradication Day, what comes to mind?
Well, a lot comes to my mind.
Okay.
One of the things that come to my mind is that how far has government remembered the people living in the rural communities? How far have they gone on covering the social protection program? And how far have they reached the persons living with disability? And so each time I think about it, I ask myself, how far have I equally gone in making sure that people at the rural communities are keying into the government program concerning poverty eradication?
Okay. Basically, the theme for this year is a pathway towards a peaceful coexistence and an inclusive society as well. Looking at Nigeria as a case study, how possible it is for us to have an inclusive society when it comes to active participation as well.
I know we are yet to get there, and I believe that we'll get there. But if we look at it very well, we know that we have not yet arrived. I want to take it on the angle of the participation of women in governance. The affirmative action, if you go to the states of the Federation, most of the states do not take into consideration the affirmative action. And so they don't even do it. How much are we being represented, the women? If the women are not well represented, what are we talking about when it comes to poverty eradication? As a woman, I know the feeling of a fellow woman. If I go to a man representing me, most times what we have heard in the communities is that when they go to the men that are representing them to ask for any favor or to ask them to support them in their businesses, what they get is sexual harassment. But if they go to a woman, the woman cannot do it. She has a feeling of another woman. She knows what it means to be a widow. And so if the women are not well represented, I don't think that inclusiveness is there. And I equally don't think that poverty will be well eradicated because, according to a school of thought, poverty wears the face of a woman.
Wow. So in other words, you're trying to say if women are not included in the society in terms of participation in politics, poverty eradication will be a far cry.
Honestly, that's my belief.
Well, in as much as I try to agree with you, let's move on. Looking at the United Nations 2030 agenda when it comes to poverty eradication, they are looking at a sustainable society and inclusive society when it comes to the people who are poor regions.
Yeah.
How feasible is that in Nigeria?
Oh, let me start by talking about the social protection program. How far has the government gone in covering the rural communities? What have they done for the people living with disabilities? If they do not include if they do not target their programs in the rural area, it is impossible for them to eradicate poverty. I still go back to the women. Our population is about 170, and the poverty level is around 62.6. And around 70 is that of women. And of course, when you think about the food that are being produced in the country, women contribute greater to it. And if these women are not taken care of, if they are not included, it is impossible for us to achieve the set target for the 2030
Okay,
agenda.
Victoria, I want you to do an evaluation now. I want us to evaluate the government in terms of unemployment, how far they have gone, in terms of human rights, in terms of fairness, equity and justice, because these are roles, these are things that have to play when it comes to poverty eradication in Nigeria and globally as well. So how can you evaluate the government thus far?
If I want to evaluate government in terms of fairness, government has not been fair enough to the youths and the women, although they are trying. When you walk around the social protection program, they targeted the youth very well, but there's still a lot to be done.
All right, then we've highlighted the various bottlenecks, the various hiccups when it comes to poverty eradication in Nigeria. So now I want you to give us, what are your opinion? How do you feel the role the government needs to play in terms of curbing poverty in Africa and West Africa as well?
One of the things I think that governments can do to curb poverty is to create enabling environment for the youth, for the women, and for persons living with disability. I talked about this set of people. You know, women are more vulnerable than persons with disabilities. If they do not carry these people along, they've not been fair in anything they are doing. In terms of fairness, I will still talk about participation of women in governance. If they are really fair, at least the 35% they've been demanding should have been enshrined into the Constitution. But now we are not even talking about the 35%. We are talking about 50%. But the major thing about that 50% is that we are asking government to equally, as they are reviewing the Constitution now, let them put it into the Constitution so that another government that will come in will honor it. It's not just a thing that somebody comes in, you do whatever you like, you go to this state, they meet up with it, you go to the other state, no woman is in their governance. What we are talking about here, if they really want to be fair, let them treat women as they treat the men. If there is opportunity for job, let the women get their fair, let the men get their fair. Yeah.
All right, now we're looking at poverty in the rural areas because basically people find it hard to get food to eat.
Yeah.
Basic social amenities are very rare.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, a very disheartening thing. Yeah. Because people, when you go to the rural area and when you check the IDP camps, people are suffering. Yeah. And I also agree with that there's a lot of role the government needs to play when it comes to social development and inclusion as well. So when it comes to poor inclusion, what do you think the government needs to do?
There are so many things.
Bringing the rural people into participation as well, that's what I mean.
One of the things that I think government should do to bring community people into participation is to give room for their opinion. For instance, if there's a national debate that is going on, they should ensure that such debate is taken to the rural communities so that they can make their input. But sometimes we that are coming from the rural communities, we don't even hear anything about that. I give you an example. When this social protection came on board, the Empower program, most of the community people did not hear about it. And when they heard about it, it was already late.
So whose fault?
Of course, the government, they did not do the
in terms of
enough awareness creation. If they had done it, those people in the rural communities would have had the information and keyed into the program. And so if they do not key into it, the poverty continues spreading.
All right then, Victoria, finally a word or two to Nigerians out there when it comes to dignity and labor.
Okay. I want to say a big thank you to ActionAid, because they've been doing a lot to ensure that poverty is eradicated. One of the things they have just initiated is Youths on the Land. The Youths on the Land is to ensure that every youth goes into farming. As you are in the rural communities, they have equally identified a private sector that is going to be training them on ICT so that they will be able to get every information that is going on. So I want to employ every Nigerian, every youth, every woman, be strong and actively engage yourself on a particular skill. With a skill, you don't even need to wait for government to come and do, but government has all the resources, but we can do things on our own. By the time I contribute my quota, you contribute your own, government will, a lot of things will be done in Nigeria.
All right, Victoria, many thanks for joining us on PTV Primetime News tonight. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.